Well, I think that let's talk about the school systems for a second because I see that as a passion of yours,
Mhm.
and I kind of got that as you were telling your story about your background and
Yeah.
teachers that believed in you,
Mhm.
and so. But you've served on the boards
Yeah, I've been on the
over the
board of
years. You've gone through tough times during like even the COVID's
yeah.
time, which a lot of people did, of course. What do you see as why is that so important to you, and what do you see as a real important piece for administrators that might be hearing this or watching this, or teachers who are probably a little lost right now? Is a tough time to be a teacher.
It is a very tough time to be a teacher, and the education system is important to me, and it is because uh, along my journey, whether it was public education, university, I have had educators come alongside me and mentor and help develop and travel with me. And it's a give back.
Mm.
And I also look at our country and I look at our future, and our future is in the hands of our youth, and our youth are in the hands of our educators, and our educators are being guided by the leaders of those school
Yeah,
systems.
yeah,
So I spend a lot of time reaching out to those leaders of school systems and working with them on leadership, their voice, how they can impact and influence, and how they can connect and engage and think about others. It's it's not dissimilar to the work that I do with association leaders or corporate leaders
okay.
in the sense that the product is different.
Mm.
The product, it's the educated student versus the product that we're developing and selling.
Mm.
And so when you look at those leaders, they're up against budget cuts, their shortages, educator shortages. They're having to look at how do we connect and engage with our classrooms differently. They're coming off of having funding, ESSER funding from COVID that they may have hired up, and now they're having budget shortfalls. And they're really those leaders in the financial space. The superintendent is like the CEO, the CFO is that school business manager or school finance person. And those are the two big pieces. Many of the school systems are bringing in leadership people to be on their team because they understand it's such a need to develop that voice of leadership in the school districts.
Yeah, yep, that's huge. What do you see right now? I know there's a couple of pilots you've been implementing, or we've been doing together.
Mhm.
Even what do you see right now as like, man, this is a huge need. If everybody would at least start with this approach, and that may be the assessment, that might be
Yeah.
a specific book or lessons or thought process. But what would you say as a beginning point is something you've noticed?
Well, there's a need for self awareness. And so self awareness is the assessment, and then it's leaning in. And so this is the diagnostic of you. What does that mean
Hmm.
for you? And then there's the emotional intelligence.
Right, right.
So, what is my coping skill? How am I integrating this? And then there's that social
Yeah.
intelligence. So, if we take it, IQ, EQ, SQ, it's that part of the need to be able to blend those. And then, if I said, what are the two big challenges? It's having time to be fully present and not distracted,
Hmm.
but truly listening and engaging so that you're hearing what people are saying opposed to just focusing on what do I need to get done.
And so they've got, as you described that, they've got two or three different, maybe three or four different types of people. They've got not just their leadership in the school. I'm talking about a teacher.
Yeah.
Got other teachers. You have
Hmm.
parents. You have the
Yes.
kids. So it's like if this self-awareness idea, and I remember going through this with you early on, even is understanding my strengths, but also understanding what kind of sets me off or what gets me a little, riled up, and then how in the world am I going to relate to any number of two or three people that could do that, could pull
Right.
that trigger.
Well, we have spent all this time talking about, not you and I, but as we talk about diversity and inclusion and all these other things. And the truth is diversity of thought, diversity of communication style, diversity of behavior. There's so many categories of diversity. And then it's around how am I, as an educator and an educational leader, how am I dealing with people that don't hear my message, that don't respond to my leadership style, that don't resonate with the way I ask them to move forward? And when I'm unaware of that and I rest on, but I'm the superintendent,
Hmm.
title's not enough. You need to really be able to lean in and be agile, or at least be able to shift slightly in your communication style to hold space, to hold that container of space of curiosity to ask, hey, what did you hear me ask for?
Mhm.
How did you hear it? And it's that alignment of conversation. And if we just deliver an ask and we don't ever qualify and connect, then you're going to hear it different than I do.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you do a lot in that context with groups and dividing them into groups with their existing
Yeah.
teams on site,
Yes.
and that is important. Why? I mean, I've got a picture in my head of
Well,
why, but it's
it's important because we work with people every day. I
right.
mean, we could take the LeaderPass team,
Yeah,
and you know them well. And yet, if I put you in a group like I do the educational leaders, they're going to have some shared context, and they're going to have some ahas about, I didn't know that was your need. I
Mm.
didn't know that was your expectation. That's you under stress. Oh my gosh, when I come and interrupt you, that creates, because you need to focus, that creates stress for you. And you have a high concentration need. They have these awarenesses, are insistent. Some people are very insistent on rules and they want to follow a structure, and other people, rules are a suggestion.
Mhm.
And so they may come across as all over the place. They're not all over the place. They just go about getting it done different. And so in those groups, it unearths that awareness
Okay.
and that conversation. And then it helps grow the leaders so they can be more adaptable in realizing, oh my gosh, Jamie, you're this way and I'm this way. When I say this, this is possibly how you hear it and
Stressor
react.
potentially. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so when you elevate the awareness and you stretch the band for the leader, it gives them more coping skill and it gives them more relatability and resilience.
Hmm. That's got to directly impact the culture of that group, because if I know, or if we're with that uh, thought process, and I understand now that what's creating a stress for you, which may not for me,
Yeah.
or what's inspiring, me, that may not be
Yeah.
inspiring you, then that culture of that environment, of that school in this case that we're talking about, has got to change in my mind, and it almost raises everything to the next.
Well, and schools are looking at cultural issues now. I mean, more than ever, they're looking at their cultural, and you hit it earlier. It's not just the leaders or the teachers or the students, it's the parents, it's the community leaders, it's the residents. It's how is the whole epicenter of a school district impacting the community?
Yeah.
And it's such a big part of community. And everybody has a vested voice in it because we pay taxes.
Right.
So people are watching, and either people are for the school or they're in question of what's going on. And school leaders are having to deal with a lot more politics than they used to.
Hmm.
I mean, and that's not really, I mean, politics is part of everything, but that's not really what they went into school leadership for.
Mm-hmm.